sir. Stand up. Show ID.
Here is my license. I am a citizen.
Hands on table. Stay here while I check.
Picture this, Sheriff Harlan Brooks thought he was making a routine stop at a roadside cafe. In the next few hours, that decision would backfire spectacularly, forcing his own department to issue a formal reprimand and order him into mandatory retraining. All because he targeted the wrong man, a federal agent working quietly to protect the vulnerable. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever been treated unfairly just because of how you look? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tyler Grace was the definition of quiet integrity. Born in 1985 in Atlanta to a hardworking single mother, he grew up seeing injustice up close but turned it into drive. Top student, full scholarship to Morehouse College, criminal justice major. Joined the FBI at 22, graduated Quantico in the top tier. By 2010, he was in the Miami field office, specializing in human trafficking. Over the years, he helped dismantle 14 major networks, rescued more than 320 victims, earned 3 director's commendations, including one for negotiating 45 hostages free in 2018 without firing a shot. At 37 in 2022, Tyler stood 6'1", athletic, warm brown eyes, easy smile. Married to Jasmine, a school teacher, father to 2 little girls who loved his hero stories. He volunteered weekends teaching self-defense to at-risk youth, donated regularly to racial equity causes, and was known agency-wide as the most compassionate agent. Always the first to help a colleague or a stranger. His record: 0 complaints, 28 successful cases, senior special agent since 2020. Tyler lived by one rule: justice means protecting everyone fairly. Then there was Sheriff Harlan Brooks, 52, white, a 34-year veteran of the Broward County Sheriff's Office. Grew up in rural Alabama in a family of lawmen, joined right out of high school in 1988. Rose fast, became sheriff in 2015 more through politics than excellence. His career carried red flags: 2005, wrongful arrest of a black driver during a traffic stop, 48 hours in jail, case dropped, only a verbal slap, 2011, excessive force on a Latino man during a domestic call, broken arm, 2-week suspension. 2016, wrong house raid in Hollywood, terrorizing an innocent black family for 45 minutes, racial comments alleged, 30-day leave but no demotion. 2018, pedestrian stop in Sunrise, baseless search of a young black man, racially charged remarks reported, 1-day sensitivity training that Harlan privately mocked. Stocky, graying mustache, perpetual scowl, lived alone surrounded by hunting trophies. 12 formal complaints over the years, 7 involving racial bias allegations. Always protected by the system, Harlan wasn't cartoonishly evil. He was the far more dangerous kind, entitled, prejudiced, and rarely held accountable. July 15, 2022. 2:45 p.m. Sunny Brews Cafe just outside Miami in Doral, Florida. 80 angry Fef, bright sun, light breeze, palm trees swaying. Tyler, in a colorful Hawaiian shirt and white gold chain, sat at an outdoor table sipping iced coffee, reviewing notes on his phone. His black SUV, unmarked government plates, sat nearby. Sheriff Brooks rolled in at 2:47 p.m. in his marked Ford Explorer. Fresh from writing minor tickets, he spotted the out of state plates in the man in the bright shirt. Suspicious, he muttered, pulling up. Boots on gravel, aviators on, hand near his taser. Afternoon? What you doing here? Harlan asked, standing over the table. Tyler looked up calmly. Just coffee, officer. Nice day. Harlan eyed the shirt, the chain, the SUV. That your ride, plates look funny. You moving anybody? Unusual? No, sir. Just me, on a break. Stand up, ID. We've had reports of illegals coming through. Tyler slowly reached for his wallet. I'm a citizen. Here's my license. Slowly, no sudden moves. Harlan's voice rose, drawing eyes from nearby tables. The encounter was only beginning, and it would soon reveal much more than either man expected. Let me know in the comments, have you ever been profiled for no real reason? Share below. Back at Sunny Brews, the tension thickened fast. It was 2:49 p.m. Now, sun beating down, a few customers at nearby tables starting to glance over, phones subtly coming out. Tyler stayed seated for a second longer, voice steady and polite. Officer, I'm happy to show ID, but can you tell me what law I'm suspected of breaking? I'm just sitting here drinking coffee. Harlan stepped closer, boots scuffing the concrete. I don't need to explain reasonable suspicion to you. Up. Now, hands where I can see them. Tyler exhaled slowly, then rose smoothly to his full 6'1" height. He kept both palms visible, license already pinched between 2 fingers. Here you go, sir. Tyler Grace. Harlan snatched the ID, eyes flicking between the photo and Tyler's face. Grace. Huh, this says federal employee. What kind? FBI? Tyler answered calmly. Special agent. A beat of silence. Harlan's jaw tightened. FBI. In a Hawaiian shirt at a coffee shop? You expect me to buy that? Tyler nodded toward his SUV. Credentials are in the glove box if you'd like to verify. Radio it in. My badge number is 478219. Harlan laughed, short, sharp, disbelieving. Nice try. People fake that stuff all the time. You fit the profile, flashy clothes. Out of area plates. Sitting alone watching the highway. We've had tip lines lighting up about human smuggling rings running through here. You're not moving until I check this vehicle. Tyler's expression remained even, though a flicker of disappointment crossed his eyes. Sheriff, with respect, you're making an assumption based on appearance. I'm not smuggling anyone. There's no one in my car. You're welcome to look, but I'd prefer you call this in first. Harlan ignored the suggestion. Hands on the table. I'm detaining you for investigation. Turn around. At 2:51 p.m., Harlan reached for his cuffs. Two cafe patrons, a middle-aged couple, stood up slowly, one pulling out her phone to record. A trucker at the counter inside watched through the window, brow furrowed. Tyler complied without resistance, placing both hands flat on the metal table. I'm not resisting, officer, but I am documenting this encounter mentally. You're making a stop based on nothing but how I look? Harlan snapped the cuffs on. Tight metal clicking hard against Tyler's wrists. Save the speech. You'll get your chance to talk at the station. He patted Tyler down roughly, shoulders, arms, waist, legs. Found nothing but a phone, keys, and a slim wallet. No weapons, no contraband. Harlan grunted in frustration, then moved to the SUV. Stay right there. He barked, though Tyler wasn't going anywhere. Harlan opened the driver's door, rummaged through the glove box. He pulled out the FBI credentials folder. Black leather, gold embossed seal, photo ID clearly showing Tyler Grace, Special Agent, Federal Bureau of Investigation. For the first time, doubt flickered across Harlan's face. He stared at the badge longer than necessary, then radioed dispatch at 2:54 p.m. Unit 4 told the dispatch, run a name and badge of Tyler Grace, FBI number 478219. Confirm status. A short pause. The dispatcher came back crisp, Unit 412, confirmed. Tyler Grace is active duty supervisory special agent, Miami field office. No wants, no warrants. Vehicle is government, issued, unmarked. Harlan's shoulders stiffened. He closed the folder, slammed the door, walked back to Tyler. Silence hung heavy for 5 full seconds. You really are FBI, Harlan muttered, almost to himself. Tyler met his gaze levelly. Yes, sir. And right now you have a federal agent in cuffs at a coffee shop because of a hunch about illegals. Uncuff me, please. Harlan hesitated. Pride battled reality. Finally, grudgingly, he reached for the keys. Click. Cuffs came off at 2:56 p.m., but he wasn't done. This doesn't mean you're clear. I still need to search the vehicle fully. Open the trunk. Tyler rubbed his wrists gently. No probable cause, no consent. You've already confirmed my identity and found nothing illegal. Unless you're arresting me, which would be false imprisonment of a federal officer. I'm leaving. Harlan's face reddened. You don't tell me how to do my job. I'm not telling you. I'm reminding you, Tyler said quietly. And those people over there are filming. This is being recorded from multiple angles. Harlan glanced around. 3 phones now openly pointed his way. The couple, the trucker who'd stepped outside, even a barista leaning out the window. He swallowed hard. Fine, get out of here. But watch yourself. We'll be watching you too. Tyler picked up his half, finished coffee, met Harlan's eyes one last time. Sheriff, I hope you reflect on why your first instinct was to assume guilt from a black man drinking coffee. Because next time, it might not be a federal agent. It might be someone who can't protect themselves. He walked to his SUV, got in, started the engine, and pulled away smoothly at 2:59 p.m. No drama, no yelling, just calm dignity. Harlan stood there, hands on his belt, staring after the black SUV until it disappeared onto the highway. What he didn't know yet, Tyler had already mentally noted every detail. Timestamps, exact words, gestures, the unnecessary tightness of the cuffs, leaving faint red marks. Within the hour, he would file an official complaint through proper channels. Not out of vengeance, out of duty. The system was about to turn on one of its own. Type justice in the comments if you believe stops like this need to end. No more assumptions based on skin color. Tyler drove straight to the nearest secure spot, a parking lot 5 miles down the highway, and pulled over at 3:15 p.m. He took deep breaths, steadying himself. The red marks on his wrists were faint but real, a reminder of the unnecessary force. With practiced efficiency, he pulled out his phone and began documenting everything. Exact timeline from 2:45 to 2:59, Harlan's words verbatim, the way his hand hovered near the taser, the baseless accusation of smuggling illegals. Tyler noted the racial undertone, how Harlan's eyes lingered on his skin, his chain, assuming criminality from a black man in casual clothes. By 3:30 p.m., he emailed a formal complaint to his FBI supervisor and CC'd to the Broward County Sheriff's Internal Affairs Division. No exaggeration, just facts. Unlawful detention based on racial profiling, violation of civil rights under color of law. Attached were photos of his wrists and a quick voice memo recapping the dialogue. Word traveled fast in law enforcement circles. Tyler's supervisor, Special Agent in Charge Alina Vargas, called him at 3:45 p.m. Tyler, are you okay? This sounds like a clear overreach. We'll back you fully. I'm fine, Tyler replied. But this isn't about me. It's about the pattern. If he did this to me, imagine what he does to civilians without a badge. Vargas agreed. We'll loop in the dojo if needed. Stay safe out there. Meanwhile, back at the cafe, Harlan returned to his cruiser at 3:05 p.m., heart pounding. He radioed dispatch again, confirmed that FBI guy is clean. Affirmative, Sheriff. He's legit. High-level trafficking specialist. Harlan cursed under his breath, realizing the gravity. He'd cuffed a Fed over coffee, based on a profile that screamed bias. He drove back to the station in Plantation, Florida, arriving at 3:25 p.m., mind racing. Should he report it himself, downplay it? By 4:00 p.m., Internal Affairs had the complaint. Captain Marcus Reed, a no-nonsense black officer who'd clashed with Harlan before, reviewed it immediately. Brooks again. This matches his history. An informal interview started at 4:30 p.m. Harlan sat in a stark conference room, uniform suddenly feeling too tight. It was routine suspicion, he defended. Area's hot for smuggling. He looked out of place. Reed leaned forward. Out of place? Hawaiian shirt and coffee. Or was it the black man part? Harlan bristled. That's not fair. I treat everyone the same. Records say otherwise, Reed countered, pulling up Harlan's file. The 2005 wrongful arrest, 2011 force incident, 2016 raid mishap, 2018 stop. 7 bias complaints. This one's from a Fed. You're lucky he didn't press charges. Harlan shifted uncomfortably. What now? Administrative review. You're on desk duty starting tomorrow. No patrols till we sort this. The review board convened the next day, July 16 at 9:00 a.m. 3 senior officers poured over details. Witness statements from the cafe patrons. The couple described Harlan as aggressive and presumptuous. Bodycam footage Harlan had activated late, and Tyler's meticulous report. By noon, the verdict clear policy violation on racial profiling and unlawful detention. No criminal charges, qualified immunity shielded that, but a stern written reprimand for Harlan's file, plus 40 hours of mandatory retraining on bias awareness and civil rights. Harlan received the news at 1:15 p.m. in Reed's office. This goes on your permanent record, Sheriff. One more and we're talking suspension or worse. Harlan nodded grimly, ego bruised. Understood. For Tyler, closure came via email at 2:00 p.m. That day, complaint upheld. Officer disciplined. Thank you for reporting. He felt a quiet satisfaction, not triumph, but progress. It reinforced his life's work, holding the system accountable from within. Yet the incident lingered. Tyler shared the story anonymously in an FBI diversity forum later that week, sparking discussions on interagency biases. Harlan, during his retraining session starting July 20, sat through videos on implicit bias, role plays on fare stops. He grumbled privately, but attended all 40 hours over 2 weeks, certificate in hand by August 5. The department issued a memo July 25, reminder, all stops must be based on articulable facts, not assumptions. No names mentioned, but everyone knew. This wasn't a massive shakeup, but it chipped away at the armor protecting bad practices, one complaint at a time. Comment below if you think more officers need mandatory bias training, yes or no. The reprimand hit Harlan harder than he let on. July 17, 2022, 2 days after the stop, he reported to the Broward County Sheriff's Office Training Center in Fort Lauderdale at 8:00 a.m. sharp. The mandatory 40-hour bias awareness course wasn't optional, skipping it meant suspension without pay. The classroom held 12 other officers, most younger, a few veterans like him. The instructor, Sergeant Leela Chen, Asian American, former patrol officer turned full-time trainer, started with a simple slide, implicit bias, what it is and why it matters. Harlan sat in the back row, arms crossed, jaw set. He thought this was punishment disguised as education. But as the hours ticked by, certain moments landed. Day 1 covered statistics in Florida. Black drivers were 2.1 times more likely to be stopped than white drivers for the same behaviors, even when controlling for location and time of day. Day 2 showed body cam compilations, not graphic, just everyday stops where tone, distance, and assumptions shifted based on race. One clip featured a calm black man in a parking lot, similar to Tyler, asked repeatedly about what he was really doing there. Harlan shifted in his seat when the instructor paused the video. Notice how the officer stands farther back from the white subject in clip 3, but closes distance with the black subject in clip 4. Small choices, big impact. By day 3, role plays began. Harlan was paired with a young black deputy acting as a suspect, drinking coffee outside a store. Harlan's first instinct, demand ID immediately, hand near taser. The instructor stopped him after 30 seconds. Sheriff Brooks, why did you go straight to detention language? Harlan muttered, routine caution. Chen nodded. And if the person was white, in the same clothes, same place, would your opening line change? Harlan didn't answer right away. The room stayed quiet. The course forced reflection. On day 4, participants wrote anonymous reflection essays. Harlan's, though he'd never admit it, read, I've made stops based on patterns I thought were real. Seeing the numbers and hearing from people who've been on the other side, maybe some of those patterns were in my head more than on the street. He passed the final exam on August 3 with an 88%. Certificate issued. But more important, the department required him to complete a 90-day probationary period. No solo patrols, ride-alongs only, monthly supervisor check. Inns Tyler, meanwhile, kept working. August 10, he led a briefing on a new trafficking case in Broward, ironically, the same county. During the meeting, a local liaison from the sheriff's office mentioned recent internal training emphasis on fare stops. Tyler smiled faintly but said nothing. He didn't need credit, he needed change. Back at the station, whispers spread. Some deputies sided with Harlan, Fed overreacted, typical bureau arrogance. Others, especially younger and minority officers, quietly approved. One black sergeant told a colleague. Finally, someone called it out without it turning into a circus. The written reprimand stayed in Harlan's file permanently. Any future complaint would trigger automatic escalation to the sheriff himself. Harlan knew his days of unchecked authority were shrinking. For Tyler, the marks on his wrists faded in a week, but the memory didn't. He started carrying a small body cam, personal, not agency, issued for off-duty encounters. Not paranoia, preparation. He told Jasmine over dinner one night, if it happens again, there'll be crystal clear video from the start. Jasmine squeezed his hand. You handled it with more grace than most would. He chuckled softly. Grace is my last name. Had to live up to it. The incident became a quiet case study inside the Broward Sheriff's Office diversity program. No press release, no viral video, just internal memos and required reading for new deputies. Case example, unlawful detention of federal agent, lessons learned. Harlan completed his probation on November 15, 2022. He returned to limited patrol duties, but something had shifted. On his first solo shift back, he pulled over a black driver for a minor taillight violation. Instead of immediate cuffs or aggressive tone, he approached calmly, explained the reason, ran the license politely, and let the man go with a verbal warning. Small, but real. Comment below if you believe one retraining can actually change behavior, or if the system needs bigger fixes. Harlan's shift in approach wasn't immediate or complete, but the seeds were planted. November 20, 2022, 5 days after probation ended, he attended a voluntary department seminar on community policing in Miami Gardens, a predominantly black area. For the first time, he listened without interrupting as residents shared stories stops for looking suspicious, assumptions of guilt based on address or appearance. One woman, mid-40s, described a 2019 encounter with Harlan himself during a pedestrian check. You treated me like a criminal just for walking home from work. Why? Harlan paused before responding. I can't change the past, but I'm learning to do better. It wasn't a full apology, but it was more than he'd offered before. Back at his desk, Harlan reviewed his own stats over 34 years. 65% of his stops involved people of color, despite Broward County's demographics being only 30% black. The numbers stared back, undeniable. Tyler, on the other hand, channeled the experience into advocacy. December 5, 2022, he spoke at an internal FBI workshop on inter-agency cooperation and bias. That day at the cafe wasn't unique, he said to 50 agents. It happens daily to folks without our resources. We have to call it out. Not just for us, but for everyone. His talk included anonymized details, the cuffs, the smuggling accusation, the quick release once identity was confirmed. Attendees nodded, several shared similar stories from their careers. Jasmine noticed the change in Tyler too. Over holiday dinner December 25, she said, "You're quieter about work lately." Processing? He nodded. It reminded me why I joined, to protect the vulnerable. But even with a badge, I'm still seen as suspicious first. Their daughters played nearby, oblivious. Tyler resolved to teach them early. Strength and kindness, standing tall against unfairness. For the Broward Sheriff's Office, the incident prompted subtle policy tweaks. January 10, 2023, a new directive rolled out. All deputies must log basis for suspicion. In detail for every stop, reviewed quarterly for patterns. Harlan's case was cited as an example. Without names, in the training manual, Captain Reed followed up with Harlan monthly through 2023. Any issues? He'd ask. None. Harlan replied each time, and it was mostly true. His complaint rate dropped 40% that year, from 5 in 2022 to 3, none involving bias claims. Tyler closed a major case February 15, 2023, busting a smuggling ring that had exploited 150 victims across Florida. As handcuffs clicked on the real criminals, he thought of that cafe stop, irony at its finest. The department-wide impact grew. By mid-2023, Broward reported a 15% decrease in profiling complaints overall, partly attributed to enhanced training. Harlan, now 53, even mentored a new black recruit, sharing lessons from the field, including his own mistakes. Not a fairy tale ending, but real progress. One encounter rippling outward. Share this story if you think small accountability steps can lead to bigger change. Tag a friend who needs to hear it. By spring 2023, the ripples from that July afternoon had settled into something lasting. Harlan Brooks, now riding solo patrols again, carried himself differently. Not transformed overnight, old habits die hard, but noticeably restrained. On March 12, 2023, he conducted a traffic stop in Davie, Florida. Black driver, late, model San, minor speeding. Harlan approached with both hands visible, voice even. Good evening. Clocked you at 12 over. License and registration, please. No immediate demands, no hovering hand on the weapon, no comments about suspicious plates. The driver handed over documents calmly. Harlan ran them, returned with a written warning, and added, "Slow it down, all right? Have a safe night." The driver later told a friend, "First time in years a cop didn't make me feel like prey." Harlan logged the stop with full details as required. Speed observed via radar, no additional factors. His quarterly review that June showed 0 bias-related flags for the first time in a decade. Tyler Grace kept tabs indirectly. Through interagency channels, he heard about Broward's declining complaint numbers and increased training attendance. On April 8, 2023, during a joint task force meeting in Miami, a Broward lieutenant mentioned offhand, "We've tightened up stop protocols since that Fed incident last summer." Made everyone rethink assumptions. Tyler didn't smile outwardly, but inside he felt the quiet win. He never sought publicity or revenge, he sought patterns to break. That same month, Tyler was promoted again, supervisory special agent to unit chief in the Miami trafficking squad. At the small ceremony April 20, his director pinned the new badge and said privately, "Your complaint last year reminded a lot of us why we do this. Keep leading by example." Tyler's response: "It's not about me. It's about making sure the next person doesn't need a badge to be treated fairly." At home, the family thrived. His daughters, now 6 and 8, started asking questions about Daddy's job. Tyler answered honestly but gently. Sometimes grown-ups in uniforms make mistakes. When that happens, we fix it so it doesn't happen again. Jasmine added, "Your dad fixed one of those mistakes himself, quietly. That's real strength." Meanwhile, the Broward Sheriff's Office expanded the lessons. By July 2023, 1 year after the incident, They mandated annual bias refreshers for all deputies, not just those with complaints. Harlan was tapped to facilitate one session in September. He stood at the front of the room, uncomfortable but present. "I made a stop based on a profile that wasn't there," he said plainly. "Cost me desk duty, retraining, and a mark on my record I'll carry forever. But it also made me see what I wasn't seeing before. If you're assuming guilt before you have facts, stop. Just stop." The room was silent. No applause, but nods from several younger deputies. Tyler never met Harlan again face to face. He didn't need to. The system had corrected course, however slightly, because one man refused to let bias slide, even when it targeted him. In late 2023, Tyler began mentoring a new cohort of FBI recruits, sharing the cafe story as a teaching tool. Power isn't in the badge. It's in how you use it, or don't abuse it. Harlan, approaching 54, started thinking about retirement, not running from consequences, but ready to step aside for voices that didn't carry his baggage. He told his supervisor in December, "Maybe it's time. Let the next generation handle it cleaner. Small steps. Real consequences. Incremental justice. Type. Accountability. In the comments if you think stories like this prove the system can improve, even if it's slow." By early 2024, the changes sparked by that sunny afternoon at Sunny Brews had taken root deeper than anyone expected. Harlan Brooks, now 54, submitted his retirement papers on February 28, 2024, not in anger, not in defeat, but with a quiet acknowledgement during his exit interview. "That stop in Doral showed me where my blind spots were. I'm stepping aside so officers who see clearer can take over." His final performance review noted the dramatic drop in complaints and the positive feedback from the bias training sessions he helped lead. The department presented him with a standard service plaque and a letter of appreciation for contributing to improved community relations in his final year. Harlan accepted it, shook hands with Captain Reed, and walked out of the station for the last time on March 15, 2024. No fanfare, just the end of a 36-year career marked by both service and hard lessons. Tyler Grace, meanwhile, continued rising. On June 12, 2024, he was invited to speak at the FBI's annual Internal Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C., a closed-door session for 200 senior agents. For 45 minutes, he stood at the podium in a crisp suit, sharing the full story without names or drama: the Hawaiian shirt, the iced coffee, the cuffs that left faint marks, the calm request for verification, and the system that actually responded. "I didn't raise my voice," Tyler told the room. "I didn't resist. I simply documented and reported. And because I did, one officer received a formal reprimand, completed 40 hours of retraining, served probation, and ultimately chose a different path for the future." That's what accountability looks like when it works quietly from the inside. The audience listened in complete silence. Several agents later approached him privately, some sharing their own similar encounters, others promising to implement stricter stop protocols in their field offices. Back in Miami, Tyler's unit celebrated another major trafficking bust in August 2024, rescuing 87 victims in a single coordinated raid. At the small team dinner afterward, his supervisor raised a toast to the agent who reminds us every day that our greatest power isn't the badge. It's choosing fairness over assumption. Tyler smiled, thinking of his two daughters, now 7 and 9, who had recently started asking why Daddy sometimes wore a suit instead of bright shirts. He told them the truth in simple words: sometimes people in power make mistakes based on what they see first. When that happens, we speak up kindly but firmly so it doesn't happen to others. At home that night, Jasmine wrapped her arms around him. "You changed more than one man's career that day. You changed how a whole department thinks." Tyler nodded, one stop at a time. The Broward County Sheriff's Office still references the incident, anonymously, in every new, higher orientation. New deputies watch a 12-minute video module titled Assumptions vs. Facts that includes reenactments of calm, professional stops versus escalated ones. Complaint rates for bias in the department stayed down 28% through December 2024 compared to 2022 levels. No headlines, no cameras, just steady internal progress. Tyler Grace remains exactly who he always was: a kind, dedicated federal agent in a colorful shirt on his days off, sipping coffee at roadside cafes, protecting the vulnerable without ever needing the spotlight. And somewhere in South Florida, a new generation of officers is learning that treating every person with basic respect isn't weakness. It's the real badge of honor. If stories like this matter to you, stories of quiet courage, real consequences, and slow but genuine change, hit subscribe right now so you never miss the next one. Type "Justice served quietly" in the comments if you believe small, firm stands like Tyler's are how we actually fix the system. See you in the next one.